Alright, be honest with yourself for a second. You're late. The train is right there, doors still open, and you go for it. Full sprint, bag bouncing, arms pumping, everything you've got. And you make it about 15 steps before the doors slide shut in your face and the train pulls away without you. And you stand there on the platform, hands on your knees, heart slamming, lungs on fire, completely wrecked, after maybe 8 seconds of running. And in that moment you feel it. The thing we all secretly believe about ourselves, that we are slow, soft, weak, a hairless, upright, unimpressive animal that gets winded chasing a bus. A squirrel would have made that train, a dog would have made it, and come back to laugh at you. But here is the thing, you just lost the wrong race. Because take that exact same body and put it out on an open, sun-baked plain behind an antelope that can leave you standing still in about 4 seconds flat, and then start a clock, and wait. Not 4 seconds, 4 hours. You are not fast. Let me be completely clear about that. You will never be fast. But what you are is something the rest of the animal kingdom finds far, far more terrifying. You are the thing that does not stop coming. So why is a slow, soft, sweaty, upright ape one of the greatest long-distance runners that has ever lived on this entire planet? Why were we built, from the feet all the way up, to outlast absolutely everything? Let's go. Let's start with the bad news, because honestly there is a lot of it, and we might as well just get it all out of the way up front. As a sprinter, you are a joke. Your absolute top speed, flat out, arms flying, having the best day of your life, is somewhere around 23 or 24 miles an hour, and only if you happen to be a world-class athlete. A squirrel does that. A house cat leaves you in the dust. A rabbit, a deer, a horse, a lion, a wildebeest, over any short distance at all, every single one of them turns you into roadkill. Even an angry goose has genuinely ended foot races. Almost anything with 4 legs and a reason to move will beat you off the line, and it is not close. And you're not exactly built for a fight either. No claws worth the name, no fangs, no armor, no horns, no venom, no shell, thin skin, a soft body, and a top speed a house cat openly laughs at. On paper, out on the open savanna, you don't look like a predator at all. You look like a slow, upright snack with a wildly inflated opinion of itself. And for the longest time, that is genuinely how we pictured our own ancestors, as the weak ones, the scavengers, the animals that only survived on cleverness because the body itself had nothing else going for it. Small, soft, and basically hopeless, scraping by on brains alone because the flesh was a complete write-off. That picture is wrong, and not just a little bit wrong, completely, exactly backwards wrong, because everyone judging that body was watching the wrong race. The short one. And the short race was never, ever the race we were built to win. So here is the first piece of the secret, and it's something you probably think of as one of your body's more embarrassing features. Sweat. You are, and I mean this as the highest possible compliment, one of the sweatiest animals on the face of the earth. Your skin is covered in millions of tiny sweat glands, and it is mostly bare. We lost almost all of our fur somewhere along the way. And that one combination turns your entire body into an evaporative cooling system. When you run, you heat up, your skin leaks water, the water evaporates off you, and evaporation pulls heat straight off your body and dumps it into the air. You are, essentially, a self-watering radiator. You cool yourself down while you keep on moving. And the sheer scale of this is genuinely absurd. You have something like 2 to 4 million of these tiny sweat glands studded right across your skin, and on a hot day, working hard, you can pour out well over a liter of sweat every single hour. Almost no other mammal even comes close to that kind of full-body evaporative cooling. Most furry animals barely sweat at all. It simply is not their trick. We went all in on it. We gave up our fur, covered ourselves in glands, and turned staying cool into one of the very few things we do better than almost anything else alive. Now here is why that quietly rewrites the entire game. Think about how a furry, 4-legged animal cools itself down. It pants. It hangs its tongue out and blows the heat off through fast, shallow breathing. And panting works. But there is a brutal catch buried in it. A galloping animal cannot really pant properly while it gallops, because the way its whole body slams together with each bound forces its lungs to breathe in lockstep with its stride. Its breathing and its running are chained together, so in order to cool down, it has to slow down. It has to stop and pant and let the heat bleed off before it can run flat out again. You don't. Because you run bolt upright on two legs, your breathing is completely unhooked from your stride. You can breathe however you like, whenever you like, and sweat the whole entire time, without ever once breaking your pace. The fast animal is forced to choose between running and cooling. You just get to do both at the same time. And over a long enough afternoon, in a hot enough place, that single difference stops being an advantage and becomes a death sentence, for the fast one. Now put those two things side by side, a fast animal that overheats, and a slow animal that never has to stop, and you get one of the most quietly terrifying hunting strategies in the entire history of life. It's called persistence hunting, and it works like this. You find your prey. Something big, something fast, something that could genuinely kill you in a straight sprint and outrun you without even trying. An antelope, a kudu, a wildebeest. And you start to chase it. It bolts, easily, and vanishes clean over the horizon, and you think, well, that's that. I've lost it. You haven't. You just jog after it, at your steady, boring, sweaty, unhurried little human pace, and you find it again. And it bolts again, and you follow again, and again, and again, and again. And here is what is quietly happening while you do that. Every single time that animal sprints away from you, it is building up more body heat that it cannot get rid of, because you are never giving it long enough to stop and pant and properly cool down. You are, very literally, cooking it from the inside out, using nothing more than your own patience and your own sweat. And after a few hours of this under the midday sun, the animal doesn't get caught. It overheats. Its core temperature climbs past what its body can survive. Its legs simply give out beneath it, and it goes down, brought to the ground by an animal that never once managed to outrun it. And there is a hidden skill in this that is easy to miss entirely. When the animal sprints out of sight over the horizon, you have to actually know where it went. You have to read the tracks, the bent grass, the freshly scuffed dirt, and think your way to wherever it's now standing and hiding. So persistence hunting is never just legs and sweat. It is legs and sweat and a working brain, all running at the very same time. You are outthinking the animal at the exact moment you are outlasting it. And some researchers suspect that is part of the whole point, that this kind of hunt quietly rewarded being clever, right alongside being tireless. And this is not some just-so story that I'm inventing. People have really done this, and some still do it today. Hunters among the San in the Kalahari have been documented running prey down in almost exactly this way. The Tarahumara, or Raramuri, in the mountains of Mexico are famous the world over for running truly enormous distances on foot. Now, I do want to be honest with you here, because it matters. Exactly how important persistence hunting really was to human evolution is genuinely debated among scientists. Some think it was absolutely central to how we became us. Others think it was rarer, or came along later, or mattered a good deal less than plain old endurance walking. That argument is not settled, but nobody at all disputes the raw fact sitting underneath it, that a fit, trained human being, in the heat, can run a much faster animal to death. And almost nothing else alive on this planet can say the same. But sweat alone is not the whole machine, because being able to stay cool doesn't count for much if the act of running itself burns you out too quickly. And this is where your body pulls off something genuinely, quietly elegant. It cheats. It runs part of the way for free. Reach down and feel the back of your ankle, that thick cord running up above your heel. That is your Achilles tendon, and it is one of the great pieces of engineering in your whole body. When your foot slams into the ground during a run, that tendon stretches, exactly like a rubber band being pulled taut, and as it stretches, it stores that energy. And then, as you push off for the very next step, it snaps back and hands a big chunk of that stored energy straight back to you, flinging you forwards. You are not powering every single stride from scratch with raw muscle. You are bouncing. A huge share of the energy of each step is getting recycled straight into the next one, for free, by a spring built into your leg. Now here is the tell. Go and take a proper look at a chimpanzee, our very close cousin, a superb climber, an unbelievably strong animal. A chimp barely has an Achilles tendon at all, just a short, stubby little connection. They are simply not built to bounce. They are built to climb, and to power through short, explosive bursts. That long, springy tendon is a specifically human upgrade, and it is an upgrade for one single thing: distance. And it is not the only spring you're carrying. The arch of your foot, that curve on the underside that presses down flat and then rebounds with every step you take, is a second spring, storing and returning energy in the exact same way. Your leg, from the arch all the way up to the Achilles, is basically a pogo stick that evolution spent a couple of million years quietly tuning. It's the reason you can keep on running long after, by rights, your poor muscles should have completely given out. Half the work is being done by rubber bands you never even knew you were carrying around. And the savings here are not some tiny rounding error either. That Achilles tendon alone can hand back something like a third of the energy of every stride, energy your muscles would otherwise have to spend fresh, from scratch, on every single step. Now picture that stretched out over hours. It is the whole difference between a body that burns itself out in 20 minutes and one that can just keep loping steadily along, in relative comfort, all afternoon long. Evolution never actually made us fast. It did something far sneakier and far more useful than that. It made each of our slow, plodding, steady steps ridiculously, almost unfairly cheap. Then there are the muscles that quietly give the whole game away, because some parts of your body only truly wake up when you run. Reach back and put a hand on your own backside. That big muscle back there, the gluteus maximus, is the single largest muscle in your entire body. And here is the strange part. When you walk, it barely does a thing. You can stroll around all day long, and it stays mostly switched off. But the very instant you break into a run, it fires, hard, with every stride you take, and its main job during running is to stop your upper body from pitching forwards and face-planting you straight into the dirt each time your foot lands. It's a stabilizer, a big, powerful brace that only really comes online at running speed. Apes have nothing much like it. A chimp's backside is flat and small by comparison. That enormous human rear end is, no exaggeration whatsoever, a running adaptation. You are sitting on the evidence right this second. And take a look down at your toes. They're short, almost comically short, compared to the long, curved, grasping toes of an ape. For climbing, long toes are fantastic. But for running, it turns out that long toes are a real liability. They take more effort to control, and they cost you energy on every single step. Short toes are simply cheaper to run on. So we shrank ours. We quite literally sacrificed the length of our toes in exchange for running more efficiently. There's even a clever trick hidden in your waist. Notice that your shoulders and your hips can twist independently of one another. Your torso can rotate one way while your legs are swinging the other. That is exactly why, when you run, your arms swing in opposition to your legs, counterbalancing all that twisting so you don't just spin off course. Apes are far more rigid through the middle. We evolved a flexible, decoupled waist precisely so that we could stay balanced and pointed forwards while running mile after mile after mile. Piece by piece, from the ground up, the entire body was being quietly rebuilt around a single verb: run. There is one last problem that running creates, and honestly the way we solved it is my favorite detail in this whole story. When you run, your entire body bounces and jolts with every stride, and if you don't do something clever about it, your head bounces right along with it. And a bouncing head means bouncing eyes, and bouncing eyes mean you can't see clearly, which is a genuinely serious problem when you're chasing something across rough, uneven ground at speed. So reach up to the back of your neck. There is a ligament back there, called the nuchal ligament, a springy little band that runs from the back of your skull down to your spine, and its whole job is to steady your head while your body bounces away underneath it, keeping your gaze level and locked forwards. And here's the genuinely beautiful part. Chimps don't have one. Australopithecus, that's Lucy and her kind, don't seem to have had one either. It shows up in our genus, in Homo. It is, quite literally, a mark of the runner, stamped right into the skull. And it comes with a partner. Deep inside your ears are the semicircular canals, the little fluid-filled loops that give you your whole sense of balance and help hold your gaze steady whenever your head moves around. In our lineage, as running became more and more central, these appear to have grown larger and more sensitive, better balance hardware for a body that was now regularly hurling itself across the landscape at speed. Now zoom all the way out, because this is where it gets genuinely profound. These running features, the springy legs, the steadied head, the whole endurance package, really start showing up clearly in the fossil record around 2 million years ago, with Homo erectus. Not in the earlier, far more ape-like Australopiths, which means running is not some tiny little footnote to being human. It arrives right around the very same time our ancestors' bodies became recognizably like our own, right around the time the brain began its great expansion. Two influential scientists, Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman, laid all of this out back in 2004 and argued something genuinely bold, that endurance running wasn't merely something the human body happened to be able to do. It may have been one of the very forces that shaped the human body in the first place. Now, that idea is still argued over. Plenty of good researchers push back hard on just how much running really drove things. But the bones themselves are clear on one single point. Somewhere around 2 million years ago, our ancestors became runners, and they never once looked back. And it was never just the neck and the ears either. The entire body plan seems to shift all at once. Compared to the short-legged, long-armed Australopiths who came before, Homo erectus turns up in the fossil record with long legs, shorter arms, a narrow waist, and a taller, more streamlined build. Pretty much the exact proportions you would sketch out if someone asked you to design an animal to cover open ground efficiently. One famous young erectus skeleton, often called the Turkana boy, is genuinely startling, precisely because from the neck down, he already looks so very much like us. The running body and the modern human body, as it turns out, are very nearly one and the same body. And this is where the story you grew up with flips completely, totally over. We just love to tell ourselves that humans are the weak animal, the soft one, the one that had to go and invent spears and fire and clever little tricks because, physically, we brought absolutely nothing to the table. No speed, no strength, no natural weapons, just a big worried brain doing frantic damage control for a hopeless body. We are, so the story goes, smart precisely because we are so feeble. But just look back at everything we walked through. The self-cooling skin, the unhooked breathing, the spring-loaded legs, the stabilizing rear end that fires with every stride, the short, efficient toes, the twisting, balancing waist, the steadied, forward-locked head. None of that is the equipment of a weakling. That is the equipment of one of the finest endurance athletes the animal kingdom has ever produced. Over 2 or 3 hours, in the heat, across open country, there is almost nothing on 4 legs that can beat you. Not the horse, not the antelope, not the wolf. You. We are not the weak little animal that just got lucky with a big brain. We are, very quietly, an apex endurance predator. A body engineered to run down almost anything alive, given enough time and enough sun. We just spend our whole lives now sitting in chairs and cars, so we never actually get to see it. The elite marathon runner is not some strange freak of nature doing something deeply unnatural. That is just a human being, running the exact way the entire species was built to run. The genuinely weird, unnatural thing is the rest of us, sitting perfectly, permanently still. You did not inherit a feeble body that your brain had to rush in and rescue. You inherited a hunting machine, and then you went and parked it. So let's put the whole machine together now, because every single part of it is pointing in the exact same direction. The bare, sweating skin that dumps heat while you move. The upright posture that lets you breathe free of your stride. the Achilles tendon, and the arched foot, two springs recycling your energy step after step after step, the great glutes bracing your whole trunk, the short toes saving effort, the loose, twisting waist keeping you balanced, the nuchal ligament and the inner ear holding your eyes locked steady on the horizon. These are not 7 random, unrelated features. They are 7 parts of one single design, and that design has exactly one purpose: to keep going, and going, and going, long after everything else has been forced to stop. And the payoff may just be the most important thing our ancestors ever got their hands on, because running down large animals meant meat, dense, rich, calorie-packed, high-energy food, and there is a real, serious argument that this steady, reliable supply of meat helped fuel the single most expensive organ we own, the brain. In other words, the relentless running body may have quite literally fed the growing mind. The very thing that made us clever might have been built directly on the back of the thing that made us tireless. We did not become smart instead of strong. We may well have become smart because we were relentless. And here is a small piece of the evidence that you can actually feel for yourself, in your own body. You have probably heard of the runner's high, that warm, floaty, almost blissful feeling that can quietly wash over you deep into a long run. For years, everyone pinned it on endorphins, though the current thinking points more toward other feel-good molecules your body releases during long, sustained effort. But think carefully about what that even means. Your brain appears to actively reward you, chemically, for the act of running a long way. Evolution didn't merely build a body that could endure. It may have built one that, somewhere deep down underneath everything, genuinely enjoys it. We are the animal that keeps coming. Not the fastest one, not the strongest one, the one that simply does not stop. Which brings us right back to that train. The doors slid shut. The train rolled away without you, and you stood there gasping on the platform, feeling like the slowest, softest creature that has ever drawn breath. And honestly, I get it. Over 8 seconds, that is exactly what you are. But that was never your race, so give it 4 hours instead of 8 seconds. Take away the rails and the timetable, put an open, sun-baked plane under your feet instead, and let that train just keep on rolling, and you would run it down. You would sweat, and you'd settle into a rhythm, and you'd let your springs do half the work, and you'd hold your head perfectly steady, and you would simply, flatly refuse to stop, right up until the thing you were chasing could not take one single step more. And that is not a fantasy. That is the body you are, right now, sitting therein. Every ancestor in your entire line was one of the ones who kept going, the ones who quit, who overheated, who couldn't last the distance. Their lines all ended, right there. Yours didn't. You are descended, without one single break in the chain, from the animals that ran everything else into the ground. So the next time you're standing there gasping after a short little sprint, don't you dare feel slow. You're not slow. You're just idling. Because somewhere underneath the desk job, and the car keys, and the elevator, there is a long-distance predator that hasn't been let properly off the leash in a very, very long time. It's still in there, it's still ready, and it still has absolutely no idea how to stop.